Hello, and welcome to our descriptive project presentation. Today, we will be providing a thorough descriptive analysis of commercial and residential properties provided by Bob McQuaid, the Ada County Assessor. Each year, property parcels are mandatorily assessed to reflect the market value in Ada County. These assessed values play a part in helping the state identify residential and commercial property taxes. Property owners can appeal properties assessments if they think their property values are too high. In 2013, 2,713 properties appealed their assessed property values. Our task is to determine if the commercial and residential assessed property values were assessed too high during the year of 2013. Table 1 represents the data we use to assess all appealed residential and commercial properties. We used many of these variables to identify the trends that helped us analyze these properties. Some important variables that we used were assessed land values, assessed home values, property types, and property conditions. Overall, property conditions fell into three major categories: average, represented by blue, basic, represented by orange, and fair, represented by gray. The majority of residential and commercial properties that appealed fell into these conditions: average and basic. To be exact, 2,403 of the 2,713 properties that appealed fell into these categories. One possible factor may be that the property conditions were categorized too closely. For example, a home that was assessed with a fair property condition in 2012 may have been categorized as a basic property condition in 2013. This would increase a property's value, thus leading to higher taxes. In part 1, I will be discussing, describing, and analyzing residential properties from our data set. Out of the 2,713 properties that appealed, 2,624 of them were residential properties. Residential property prices are determined by multiple factors, including the area the home is located, the square footage, the number of rooms in the home, the acres on which the the home sits on, and the quality of home. This graph represents the assessed residential property value trend from 2008 to 2013. On the vertical axis, we have the assessed value, home values, and on the horizontal axis, we have the years. As you can see, from 2008 to 2013, we've had a steady increase in mean and median values.
Hello, my name is Michael Brown, and I'm going to discuss descriptive statistics comparing residential properties from 2008 to 2013. And the purpose of my discussion is to discuss how the values in 2013 were significantly different from the other years in the data set. So here we took the average residential total assessed value, and we find from 2008 to 2012 there was a steady increase in property values. They increased anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 a year. Then from 2012 to 2013, we see a $35,000 increase in property values. This graph takes that same data, converts it to a percentage. So from 2008 to 2012, we see that steady increase in property value per year, about 5 to 7%. And then from 2012 to 2013, property values increase 18.6%, and about 50% of the increase in average residential property values occurred from 2012 to 2013 alone. We also looked at median assessed values. This graph, we see that median property values are somewhat lower compared to average property values, because when we collect the average property value, those few expensive properties bring the mean up. And when you collect median property values, you just take that middle number in the data set. There was a $15,000 to $20,000 difference in price, so the difference wasn't that great. But we found the same percentages, 5 to 7% increase from 2012 to 2013, and an 18.7% increase from 2012 to 2013. So very similar to what we found in the average assessed value graph. There were 3 property conditions: average, basic, and fair. This graph shows that all 3 property conditions increased from 2008 to 2013 in value. Properties in fair condition saw the largest increase in assessed value from 2008 to 2013. And the largest assessed value increase for all property conditions occurred from 2012 to 2013. Properties in fair condition had the largest increase in average assessed values, and nearly 50% of the increase in value for properties in fair condition occurred from 2012 to 2013. Finally, we calculated the average assessed value per square foot by year, and we find very similar percentages to what we saw in our median value and average value graph. 5 to 7% increase from 2008 to 2012, and then a 16% increase in value from 2012 to 2013. So in conclusion, these graphs and percentages highlight how different property value changes were from 2013 compared to all the other years. Thank you.
Part 2 of our study focuses only on the commercial properties. As Blake mentioned in Part 1, we decided to split up the 2 properties based on residential and commercial because we decided they were totally different and we wanted to compare them separately, minus the few introductory slides. So we ran some descriptive statistics on these commercial properties. We found that 89 of the total sample are commercial properties. All of these properties received a property condition rating of basic. The construction quality rating is unlisted for all the commercial properties. So because of that, we had them listed for the residential but not for the commercial, so we weren't able to run any statistics on the construction quality. 17 of the properties have been remodeled since they were built. So we also looked at a few of the other variables. These 5 specifically, we calculated mean, median, and range. So we looked at sales price, 2013 assessed value, square footage, 2013 assessed land value, and the most recent sales date by year. So this graph represents the distribution of commercial properties by number of units. So as you can see right here, the most common number of units for these 89 commercial properties is 64.04% at 1 to 25 units. The rest are pretty low, hovering between 1 and 7%. So this graph represents the distribution of commercial properties by year built. So we started at 1880, went all the way up to 2009 by decade. So these are sort of all over the map, but we do see the highest percentage at 22.47% from 1990 to 1991. That's where the majority of the commercial properties fall.
Hello, this is Hung. I'm going to talk about the descriptive statistic comparing commercial properties from 2008 to 2013. So, unlike residential properties, we did not see a consistent increase in average assessed value of commercial properties. In fact, the average assessed value of commercial properties declined 10% from 2009 to 2011, and overall commercial properties only saw a 22% increase in average assessed value from the lowest value of 2.4 million in 2008 to 2.95 million in 2013. Comparatively, residential properties saw a 48% increase in the same period. There are 2,624 residential properties in this data sample, compared to only 89 commercial properties. Therefore, this may affect the accuracy of the average assessed value of commercial properties. Moving on to the analysis of median commercial property total assessed value. These two graphs show that the median commercial assessed value only declined 3.2% in 2009-2010 period. On the other hand, average commercial assessed value declined 6.3% from 2009 to 2010 and declined a further 4% from 2010 to 2011. The largest median increase were 28.1% from 2008 to 2009, and we did not see a similar trend between the average and median commercial property assessed value.
So in conclusion, after looking at both the residential and the commercial properties data, we found some overall trends. First, almost all of the properties fell into the average or basic property condition. This was interesting because we knew that there were other property conditions, including fair, but almost all of the properties that were appealed in 2013 fell into these two categories. Next, 2013 had the largest percent increase in average and median assessed values for both commercial and residential properties, which is significant. The residential properties had a larger and more consistent percent increase in assessed values compared to the commercial properties. So now we're going to go into comparing the conclusions we found for commercial versus residential. So for the commercial data. The commercial properties saw a decline in their average assessed values during 2010 to 2011. So this was interesting because it was a decline that we didn't see in the residential properties. But in the end, we concluded that the sample of 89 commercial properties wasn't quite high enough to make any overarching conclusions compared to the high number of 2,624 for the residential properties. We didn't feel that 89 was high enough to have any significant trends. So overall, we really didn't see any reason that there should be a significant change or reassessment of the 2013 assessed values. For the residential, we sort of came to a different conclusion. So the data suggests that it's possible that residential properties were maybe overvalued. So as a group, we know nothing about actually assessing these properties specifically. We don't know what the characteristics of an overassessed versus underassessed property are. But from the data that we found, we did see significant differences and changes from 2012 to 2013 versus the other years. So with a number of variables, we saw a higher percentage increase from those years than, for example, 2010 to 2011 or 2008 to 2009. So those are our overall trends. And so in conclusion, we'd like to say that the commercial properties maybe don't need to be reassessed. It was inconclusive. But for the residential properties, we would suggest that maybe the data should be looked at one more time.
215.